Thank you everyone for joining us in this workshop. And I've been following the lectures since morning. I can see that you are all having quite a good time with an equal share of lectures and demonstrations. I am trying to strike a balance somewhere between lecturing and giving you, an experience on what actually the screening, selection, and data abstraction process in your systematic review is going to look like. So these are the steps that have been covered so far. So you framed your review question, you framed your eligibility criteria, you've conducted the literature search. So now you are at a stage where you have all the search results from different sources pooled in one place. So you are now entering into study selection. And once you've selected the studies, you have to proceed to abstracting the data from the selected studies. So the synopsis of this presentation is going to be the purpose of screening, the steps of screening and data abstraction. When you talk about study screening, we are talking about screening at the title and abstract level and the full text level. When we talk about data abstraction, I'm going to take you through how to design a data abstraction sheet and what the abstraction process actually goes through. And I will briefly touch upon the common errors that you're likely to, encounter in this process. So if you had followed Dr. Rupesh's session on eligibility criteria, where he said what are the broad eligibility criteria based on the PICO format, which will determine whether or not a study actually enters into your systematic review. Then why do you have to go through a screening? Because you've already framed eligibility criteria. So the reason is your literature is going to come from multiple sources. Like Dr. Ganesh had just demonstrated, you are going to be searching multiple databases, unpublished literature or gray literature. So your data is going to come from multiple sources, none of which are complete or comprehensive in their own right. And you are going to be using a combination of search strategies. So you are likely to have overlapping results or duplicate results. And since none of these are perfect, you will also be having irrelevant results, and you will be sometimes surprised to see how many irrelevant results you find despite putting a lot of effort into your framing of search strategies. So the steps of screening and abstraction goal as first choose your tools. I will come to it in a bit. So you will basically import your search results. Then you will perform a title and abstract screening. Then you will do a full text screening. And then you will follow it with what you call data coding and abstraction. Now, a gentle pointer regarding the word abstraction, I am more comfortable actually with the word extraction, but if you would refer to any of the Cochrane tools, like the one screenshot that I've shared there, they commonly use the word extraction, but as an institute, we prefer using the term abstraction. So I am sticking to the word abstraction. Do not confuse it with the abstract or something. It just means you are extracting data from the selected studies. So these are broadly the steps of screening and data abstraction. So by now, it should be evident to you that systematic reviews and meta-analysis are very data-intensive processes, and you are not going to be doing it manually, or it's not going to be handwritten or just with your Microsoft Excel or Word. It doesn't work that way, though in the beginning of time, it used to be that way. So you are going to have to get tech savvy at some point, lay your hands upon certain tools which are basically built to make your work much easier. So I prefer to start off with the tools that are available purposely, because I need you to decide on the tools that you will be using, based on which you will, it makes your entire process, number one, easier. Number two, documented, which means your entire process of screening and data abstraction is there out in the open, black and white, transparent, making you, it stands for the accountability. Anybody who sees your documentation of screening and data abstraction process, if they see your documentation and if they replicate the process, they will have to end up with the same results as you. So these are the tools that are available. Rayyan, like I've indicated, you could use it for screening and bibliography management. However, you will not be able to use it to cite results into your final systematic review when you write it. Covidence is basically the tool of Cochrane. So if you are doing a Cochrane review, then you will have automatic access to Covidence. Else you have a free trial, else it has to be purchased. Mendeley and Zotero, I'm sure all of you are already aware, these have limited use here only in bibliography management. Basically a place where you can pool all your search results and later retrieve them when you want to cite them in your systematic review when you write it up as an article. When you come to RevMan, again, this is a tool of Cochrane. So here, barring screening, all the other steps can be done within RevMan. It helps you manage your bibliography. You can perform your data abstraction, analysis, and your review writing within RevMan itself. One pointer here, you are free to use RevMan even for non-Cochrane reviews. It is not that you should use it only for Cochrane reviews. So I am reiterating the fact, please choose your tool. You cannot proceed to perform a systematic review without choosing your tools, and most of these, at least other than even Covidence, if you're doing Cochrane, it is free. The others are all open access. So this is a screenshot from the Cochrane website where they give something called a toolkit. So your systematic review toolkit is there laid out, and they have, a big kitty of tools from where you can choose. So having chosen your tools, we will go to the first step, which will be to import your search results into your into whichever tool you have chosen. So Dr. Ganesh Kumar just stopped there where you've gone through multiple databases, multiple sources of literature, and you import all of them into your tool. So for the rest of the lecture, what I've done is I have pasted screenshots both from Covidence and from Rayyan, so that you have a direct feel of how it looks like when you're proceeding through these steps of screening and data abstraction. So this is basically a screenshot from Covidence. So when you're importing your search results, make sure you pull all from every source. You would have searched multiple sources, pull all the results into one place. You could use a reference management software like Mendeley or Zotero, or you could use any of the other ones like Covidence, like I mentioned. There are other tools which are also available. So once you have imported, so basically you have all your search results in one place. Now the first step is to do your title and abstract screening. Now, when you glance at the title and abstract, the first thing you will be able to do is weed out those ones which are, on the face of it, very irrelevant. So you basically look and see, does the document look like it might be relevant, which you do based on reading the titles and abstracts. If yes, then proceed and retrieve the full text of the article. So you basically use this step to exclude obviously irrelevant studies. However, be more inclusive at this stage. Do not assume the title and abstract is going to give you all reliable information. So again, I repeat, please exclude only obviously irrelevant studies at this stage. So again, this is what your title and abstract screening, once you've done. See, basically, this is a teamwork. They say no one can whistle a symphony. A systematic review fits that saying very well. You need to have a proper team of people together. So when they screen, your tool will display how many articles had made it from your search results. Once you import your results, how many made it to your title and abstract screening stage. And at the end of screening, how many made it to the full text stage. So in Covidence, if you see, when you click on each article that you have imported from your results, it will display the article, it shows the title, it shows the abstract, and to your right, you can add, it gives the history of that article in your review. I added it, I imported it on a particular date, and I voted saying whether I will include this study or not at a particular date. Then I've added another date. Then my co-reviewer has also given his or her vote into it. And the final decision is displayed there. I have voted and said that this study is irrelevant to my systematic review. So Please don't be bewildered by the number of tools that you are using. These are very user friendly and they make your process so much easier and manageable. The same, if you were to do the same title and abstract screening in Rayyan, your screen is going to look like this. Rayyan again is open access. You could just create an account for yourself. And once you import your references, your screen is going to look like this. Someone in the morning had a query about what to do with duplicates. Now, I have put that arrow for that person only. It helps you detect duplicates and you can resolve all your duplicates here, because obviously you are importing from multiple sources. So you are going to be having an issue of duplicates. Now, when you see the labels that are there on each of the articles, so when I click on the first article, it displays the title and abstract for me, and it shows the decision. Now, this is a completed review. So it shows the decision made by the first reviewer, the second reviewer. It also displays some comments that I have made there. And if you see for those marked in red, it also gives red means I have rejected. I mean, rejected in the sense I have said that that article does not get included in my systematic review. It also gives you a way to assign a specific reason. See, please understand, systematic reviews are long winding processes. So you may feel like you remember it today as to why you rejected or did not include a particular article. You may not remember the same 3 months down the line when you're writing it up, which is exactly why these come in handy. So I put up a label there and tell them and indicate why I am not including this particular article. So every article, if you see, has been looked into by 2 different reviewers and they have given their verdict. Now, if one person has given a green and the other person has given a red, which indicates that there is a conflict, then we have a third person as an arbitrator who would be resolving the conflict. So basically in this review, what we did was myself and my colleague, once we did this, we did this whole process of screening a few thousand articles. We had around 50 conflicts. So we set up a call with our arbitrator and we discussed each of them and came to a final decision about those articles on which the decision was in conflict. So these are, they look very similar to your online shopping filters, and they are very, very useful in Rayyan, where they help you see and sort and filter the articles by, all of these options, by authors, by year of publication, by type of publication, by reason of rejection. So the options are numerous. Please explore this in your own time and you will see how much easier it makes your process of screening. So to what end are we screening? So once you do the title and abstract screening, Covidence and Rayyan give the screening summary something like this. So totally there were 25 articles and both the reviewers have completed voting on the 2 articles. And there is a third arbitrator who had no role because there was no conflict. Similarly, the pie chart is what comes out of Rayyan, where it says how many articles were included, how many were excluded, and how many are marked as maybe, which means they've been marked for later discussion with a third person. So this is the title and abstract screening summary. So once you're done with title and abstract screening, the next logical step is where you do the full text of the review. Full text review of the articles that made it through the title and abstract screening step. So here basically you retrieve the full text of all the articles and go through them, have a pre-designed eligibility form. You have a form based on which you are going to analyze these full texts, because there is a good chance that you saw the title and abstract and thought that a particular article makes the cut. But when you read the full text, you understand that, it doesn't actually fit into your systematic review. So in these are the articles that are going to be weeded out at this stage of your systematic review. Okay, so I would like to draw your attention to 2 main points here. One, please look at the second bullet point. It says before screening, link together all reports from the same study. See, there is a good chance that there is one big study and there are multiple publications that are coming out of this study. So in this case, please understand all systematic reviews work at the study level. They do not work at the report level. So all your reports have to be tagged under that single study. So let us say Jeyashree et al. And I am looking at multiple outcomes in a particular population, and I come up with multiple reports. Okay. So all these have to be linked to that one study by Jeyashree et al. That is how it works. The next point I want you to understand is, please maintain a database on results. Please maintain a record of this entire screening process, be it your abstract or your full text. Please keep a record of it. Now, if you use any of these tools, they keep an automatic record of this process. If you choose to do it manually for some reason or the other, then please keep a meticulous record of how this entire screening process has proceeded. So this is how the full text screening looks in Covidence. So I select a particular article. Now this article has crossed my title and abstract screening stage. And now I have the full text article, but when I read it, I make a note on the right side saying, I don't think this is, this article has to be included into my systematic review due to this reason. So this is how it works. Once you have done this, so you've done your title and abstract screening, you've done your full text screening. Now you have finally come up with those list of articles from whom you will abstract your data and proceed with the meta-analysis. Now, what to do with the screening results? Now, again, you could easily export your screening results. And in Rayyan, if you do, once you click on export, you get an email, and it basically, if you look at the Excel sheet, it emails you a CSV sheet where it indicates what is the article ID and whether or not it was included, and if not, what was the reason for exclusion. So how it all ultimately makes to your systematic review when it gets published as an article. So you have to, by mandate, include the flow of studies through your review, which is a Prisma flow diagram that you must have in your published systematic review. Now, imagine trying to sift through thousands of articles which had duplicates, and then you screen title and abstract, some went away, then you screen full text, some went away. So this is a laborious process, but it has to be documented, and these tools automatically generate this tabular column for you and give. Now, on the right hand side, what I've shown is the the flow chart in this published systematic review on efficacy of green tea based mouthwashes on dental plaque and gingival inflammation. So you have to make it very, very clear, and that's the entire point of a systematic review, being very systematic about each and every step in you proceeding through your review. Even what you discard has to be documented. Now, you have to be including a table on characteristics of excluded studies in your final systematic review. That is why you need to keep track of each step. So you have to make it very clear to the reader as to why a given study has been excluded. Because you understand that if you are dealing with RCTs, all RCTs have to be registered because they need to be visible to a person who is doing systematic review. So let us say you come up with a systematic review, and there is an author who says, I have also published on this. So you need to be able to have a very transparent process which avoids such queries and automatically answers the question as to why you did not include a particular article. Please note below I have indicated that you also have to present the characteristics of ongoing studies, which means you have done such a thorough review and you know what are the studies that are ongoing and likely to yield results that are relevant to your systematic review in the forthcoming years. Now, when it will be useful, when your systematic review is due for an update. Now, what you have with the systematic review is a lifelong relationship, whether you like it or not. You have to update your systematic review periodically. At least with Cochrane, it is once in 2 years. So when you update, you will come back to this table. Of course, you will be updating your searches, but you need to update this table and see which of these ongoing studies have been completed and what are their results. So a lot of work is going into automating the selection process. So please understand, stay up to date. See, when people started with systematic reviews, they were hand searching journals, keeping account in notes and Word and Excel. Now we have come a long way from there using a lot of automation. Now the next step of automation we are looking is to make my whole lecture irrelevant, which means they are trying to automate even the screening and selection process using machine learning and text mining techniques. So here, if you see at the current stage also, some level of automation exists, and you could look up websites like Cochrane, where they work on large data sets, they mine those data sets, and they try to come up with automation which helps to automatically select articles that fit your systematic reviews inclusion and exclusion criteria. So it will reduce the workload, and please keep up to date whenever you are working on a systematic review. So let us say we're done with screening. Now I'm not sure if I missed a slide, but let me say that all screening has to be done by 2 reviewers. So you are working with the team. So please identify beforehand the 2 people who will be doing the screening, and please appoint a 3rd person as an arbitrator who will be settling these any disagreements between the 2 people. So this basically alleviates any disagreement, or it makes sure the entire process is very objective and systematic. So let us say now we have come to the stage where you have the final list of articles that have made it into your systematic review. So you need to know what information to extract from them. This will depend on the question that your review is asking and the objectives, the very specific objectives of your systematic review. And also the design of studies that are included. Morning there was a query on effect size measures. So yes, based on the design of studies that you are including, you will be designing your data extraction sheet, because you will know what are those variables that you will be extracting from the selected studies. So here I would like to place a lot of emphasis on designing of a data abstraction sheet. So this is the, I would say, most important part when you are starting off with the data abstraction sheet. Your data for your systematic review is only going to be as good as your data abstraction sheet. So please invest a lot of thought, a lot of time into this process. So this sheet is basically going to tell you that if I sit with the first article that I'm going to include in my systematic review, what are the information that I will extract from that article into for use in my systematic review. Now, you are often tempted to think, okay, my systematic review is about prevalence of caries. So I will look into each of the individual articles and just pick out the caries prevalence number alone. It does not work like that, because we are using a data abstraction sheet, number 1, to provide an accounting of what research you are doing. It helps you identify what is missing. It helps you identify the characteristics of the interventions, the subjects, and the methods in the research. Morning there was a talk about apples and oranges. So you have to establish that the studies that you have included in your review are actually combinable or comparable. So it wouldn't help if you just pick up the caries prevalence from all the individual studies that you have included. You actually have to go through a lot of details about the study methodology, the study subjects, and the actual methods that they have used. The last point and the most interesting one is, if you find an association, like let us see, if you see an association between green tea mouthwash and plaque index, you know that not all the studies that you have included will give the same results. So there must be reasons why there is a difference in the study results across different studies. Now that wouldn't automatically be obvious to you if you are just picking up the effect size from the individual studies. You need to identify a lot of variables that might explain these inter-study differences. Now, if all the studies agree, there is no point in you, actually performing the systematic review only if all of them are, echoing the same results. So the reason that one reason that you're venturing into a systematic review is there are inter-study differences, and your data abstraction sheet should capture data on these variables which are likely to explain these inter-study differences. So how does a good data abstraction sheet look like? It has to be very comprehensive and self-sufficient. You should not have to go back every time to the original article and fish out data. Once you have filled out the data abstraction sheet for a given article, it should be self-sufficient in itself. It should be based on thorough knowledge of literature. It should be grounded in your review question and objectives. Please do not deviate and drift and go into random, pursuits. Stick to your review question and objectives. Please frame objective fields. Do not put too much of subjective information into an abstraction sheet, because when you go into analyze data, you will need specific objective fields from which you will take numbers to analyze. Provide open space for remarks. So there have to be space for certain remarks. As much as it is objective, it needs to provide open space for remarks. Now, what I've done is given you a screenshot of the last few columns in my data abstraction sheet. And I'm sorry, it is not visible. I think the column number is JK. So you can go back and calculate how many columns are there in this data abstraction sheet before I reach this section. And this section is all the open space for remarks, like I said. It's the conflict of interest statement, it's the ethics statement, any additional comments about the article which you had when you read about it, the first author email in case you need to write to him or her. If yes, why did you email him or her? And when do you send a follow-up email? Who is the data extractor, and the date of completion of data extraction. Now it goes into extreme details, and it is for the good. Because like I said, it's a long drawn process. You are going to, anytime you revisit the sheet, it should give you all the details that you require. Now, I will show you the data abstraction sheet that was used for the study that you have been referring to since morning on green tea mouthwash and plaque index and gingivitis index. So the first screenshot is each row in it is a study, and the columns I have expanded for your better visibility. So there is study ID, there is author, there is location, where was this study conducted, year of publication, study design, participant description, sample size, any attrition, settings of the study, oral hygiene aids, I'm not sure what SRP at baseline is, intervention arm, comparison arm, then time of evaluation. Then if you see the next, there are three columns, plaque index, gingival index, and bleeding index. Now these three are the outcomes that they had used in the study. So for each of these outcomes, they have extracted the baseline mean, the SD standard deviation, and the final mean and the final standard deviation. So this has been repeated for each of the three outcomes that they were considering in this systematic review. Now this is what a data abstraction sheet should look like. In fact, I would have liked a little more additional details, but again, if you think that the primary studies are not going to have these details, then there is no point having them in your data abstraction sheet. You will just end up with too many empty columns. So common mistakes that one makes in designing a data abstraction sheet are trying to extract more detail than routinely reported. So you have already been through these articles, you are a content expert, so you know what kind of data is usually reported. So do not try to extract too much detail which you are not going to find in these studies. Do not have too many subjective items which will not contribute later to your interpretation of the findings. Two reports from the same study are extracted as two different studies. Now, I would like to, remind the previous point that I said. Multiple reports from the same study will not be considered as individual studies, but it will be one study with multiple reports. Then there is coder drift. This is what I said. You started in January. By May, you are already having too many ideas about this project. And every time you read a new article full text, you are getting new ideas. So you keep, deviating from your actual review question and objectives. Please stay rooted to it. Failure to ask questions. Ask yourself questions in the process of making, the data abstraction sheet. Talk to each other, sit with your team and try to draft this sheet. We are talking about studies. So here we have Biswas et al. There is only one report from that study. The comparison groups used were green tea, chlorhexidine and Listerine. The outcomes they have looked at are plaque index and gingival index and the effect size. How they have summarized it or compared it across the two arms is using standardized mean difference. So you will be abstracting. I'm taking you quickly through these slides because these I have essentially explained to you. So you will be abstracting data on study characteristics, on participant characteristics, on outcome characteristics. Please imagine plaque index here. On characteristics on plaque index, whether it was, recorded by the dentist and he did clinical examination, whether it is a composite indicator. So nature of that outcome and how you are going to compare this outcome across different arms. So that would be your effect size. So I have just given you the example of the green tea study. If you look, this is how at the end of full text screening and data abstraction from all the full text, this is how they have presented the data. They have, each row is a study. They have given some basic characteristics of the study, the comparison arms and certain details. So how to ensure quality data abstraction? Please sit and work together as a team, have multiple discussions. It helps to do a pilot or a dummy data abstraction so that you can improve your data abstraction sheet. Maybe when you come to the third study in your pilot data extraction, you find that there are some columns which are reported in the studies but not in your data abstraction sheet. So please improve your data abstraction sheet based on multiple discussions. Train your team, sit together, have regular meetings and train your team so that you are all on the same ground. So to sum up, we've merged from the beginning of the lecture, to take it over from Dr. Ganesh's lecture where you finished searching, you merge the results from all sources, you examine titles and abstracts, then you retrieve the full text of potentially relevant reports, you link together multiple reports of the same study, you examine the full text reports, you correspond with the investigators where necessary, make final decisions on study inclusion and proceed to data collection. So these would be my take-home messages. Please understand the steps in screening and abstraction and choose your tools in the beginning itself. Import your results, screen the title and the abstract, screen the full text, prepare a very good data abstraction sheet and extract the data. Two reviewers will be screening and extracting data. The third will act as an arbitrator. Please note that this entire process has to be documented and presented very meticulously to account for transparency, accountability, and reliability. And stay up to date and keep track of the new tools that are coming up to improve and ease in the process of systematic review and meta-analysis. I can take questions if time allows. Otherwise, I'm just here. I could respond to you in the chat window also and make sure your questions are answered. I have not shown screenshots of RevMan, but this is what RevMan looks like and it takes you through every step of the process. Thank you.